All right, investors, it's time for another one. I'm doing Fisker today. I've done GM, Ford, Stellantis. Stellantis. I'm going to do Daimler pretty soon, but now I'm doing Fisker. I'm going to do a numbers analysis. It's going to be very difficult to do that because you'll see why. It's a growth company. But first, what is Fisker? Well, Fisker is an EV company. The biggest flagship product that's going to be coming out or is coming out soon is the Fisker Ocean, which is kind of the compact SUV-ish. It's a little bit bigger than the ID.4. And, it's the typical, like, everything made out of recycled McDonald's straws, handpicked from the ocean type of stuff with, purifying engines, atmosphere, earth-saving type of stuff. So, that's what you can expect. You can expect some really, high-end, environmentally friendly materials everywhere. That's basically the message. And they do have a couple more products in the lineup. You can see the Pear, which is going to be more of a city-friendly vehicle. And then the Ronin, which is kind of the roadster, apparently, that's coming out down the pipeline. But that's still a dream. That's still a dream. That's a little bit further down the road. The reality right now is that Fisker is still pretty far away from shining, and I will tell you why. First, I'm thinking we take a look at the numbers like I always do to figure out if we can learn anything from them, right? Shall we? So here's the overview. The price today went up almost 1%. Over the last 5 days, it's about even, up 2.5% actually. 1 month down 15%, year to date down 25%, 1 year down 56%. 5 year or old chart is basically the same. It's down 43%. From the peak, it's down quite far, from 30 to 5. So, that's 6x almost. It's been a downtrend ever since, and that's to be expected. I mean, with a lot of these companies, okay, with growth companies, what happens is they need to be funded. And typically, they're equity funded. So investors have to basically foot up the bill to buy the equity, and then the company sells equity in order to fund their ventures. In fact, they've basically used exclusively equity to fund it because they have no debt on the balance sheet. As we look at the numbers, you'll find that out. We'll go to finance, we'll go to quarterly, just to get a little bit more definition. And the first thing you'll notice is that they make no money. They've made $300K this year, which is less than a typical doctor. So somebody with a salary can make more money than Fisker at the moment. Now, not to knock them down, they've been in development for a while, and I don't even know how they've made these $12,000 or $10,000 or $14,000 in the previous year. So they haven't sold any vehicles. I guess they're taking pre-orders now. So as far as the net income goes, they're losing at about 150 million per quarter. Shares outstanding, you can see the dilutions here. So anywhere from 2017, now they keep selling shares in order to fund themselves. And the margins, you can see how the numbers don't work out for growth companies. There's nothing really we can learn here. What are we going to talk about? The 58,000% negative operating margin, or the 100 million trillion negative profit margin? So what we're going to do is just a brief look at the statistics, and you'll see that the enterprise value is actually a bit lower than the market cap, which means they're sitting on a little bit of cash. We'll find out how much cash on the balance sheet, and the total cash here, net cash, is $43.9 million, which will fund them for a little bit. They have a working capital of 500 million, so they'll be fine. And they can always just sell more equity, and there'll be people to buy. But you'll notice that the equity price keeps dropping. So that's not an endless well of capital. People will eventually, drop the company if it stops showing promise. So, what can we learn about this company, okay? First of all, in 2023, they've produced I'm sorry, they're going to be producing 95 prototypes. Oh, never mind. They've already produced 95 prototypes, and they're going to be putting in production 8,000 vehicles by the end of year second quarter, and then 42,000 more by year's end. So they're really trying to ramp up the production. But these vehicles, outside of just the lifestyle comfort stuff and the technology that's going to be in there, they don't sound super impressive when it comes to statistics. In fact, their bottom line price is kind of attractive at 38,000, but I mean that's for a 270 HP horsepower vehicle that does with 250 miles of range, which is not that much anymore. And it does 0 to 60 at a whopping 6.9 seconds, which means like, Prius status. So the vehicle doesn't sound that impressive. So you're only really going to be buying it because you either respect Fisker, the main guy for the company. He had a different company before that, which was also named Fisker. He made the Fisker Karma. If you guys remember that vehicle, it was pretty popular because just of its unique look. Maybe I can look it up on Google Images here. Fisker Karma. And it was a fan favorite for a while. But as far as functionality, I mean, it basically looked like this. There's some for sale here or something, some parts. I don't know. How do I go to images? There we go. These are some good images of the car. It looked really cool. It was pretty unique for the time. It still is. Like if you see this car on the street, it looks impressive. They try to do a remake of it later on. The interior is really nice. It's just a beautiful, beautiful car. It's got great design, and it wasn't fast. It was slow as hell. It's not a performance vehicle, but you couldn't tell that just by looking at it. It looks fantastic. I like it. But good luck getting it repaired. Good luck getting parts. Good luck doing all that with this vehicle. So it ended up being mostly a collector's vehicle for most people. So this company is the current Fisker company is looking to change things up and have 3 models in the pipeline, lots of production, running big deficits to do it. This time around, there's more investment, and it looks like the vehicles will actually be built. It's just the thing about the space is that it's going to be very saturated now. It's going to be stacked with EVs from everybody, from legacy producers, and of course you got the big Tesla. And not only that, but now there's international competition. They have tons of EV makers in China alone. Lots. I mean, then you got BYD, you got EVs in India and whatnot, what have you. Everybody's producing EVs. The Germans are on top of it, right? You've seen the new Mercedes and BMW EVs. I mean, Audi, Volkswagen, right? Those are very popular right now in the States. The Volkswagen ones, the IDs. You got Hyundai, right? You got the Ioniq 5 on the streets everywhere right now. So, not to mention all the Teslas. The EV market's getting pretty saturated, in my opinion. There might always be a niche for this company. I just don't know, without the access of enormous capital, how they're going to be able to compete based on volume. I just can't see it. I can only see Fisker being a niche producer at best. And even if they do succeed as a niche producer, how profitable can they really get? I mean, why invest in Fisker if the only thing you like is their brand, right? Their product, okay? Why not just buy a Fisker? That's what I would do. I would buy the car, but I wouldn't invest in the company. It's very hard as a small studio type of car producer to be profitable and to return capital to investors, because you're always going to be looking for the next thing. You're always got to be cutting edge. You're always going to be looking to grow, and there's just not going to be any leftover slice of the pie to distribute back to the people who funded you in the first place, right? It's almost like buying a football team or a soccer team, right? A publicly traded or something like that, where you can buy a piece of Manchester United just so you can say that you have a piece of Manchester United. It's not going to be the best investment out there. So the real question you got to ask yourself is like, okay, this company is probably not going to be the next Tesla. So what is my real goal? Is my real goal just to be a part of this amazing journey, and this car has a chance to be like the electric Lamborghini in the future or something like that, or the electric Ferrari? Or, by the way, even Ferrari's making electric cars, right? Even Lambos. As far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, do you just want to be part of this history? If so, then that's fine. You know, if you actually think that they're gonna make it big, and they have a chance of, you know, swallowing the industry, or at least taking a big pie, then what you want to do is use the new industry formula. Have a new industry formula, emerging industry formula, and it takes a lot of assumptions in there. All right, so here's what it is: 100 divided by N divided by M. And that should give you the percentage of your disposable investment capital to invest into a certain company, okay? Where N is the number of entrants in the field, and M is the number of monopoly producers at maturity of the industry. And you can build analogs for this. Like, you can take the airplane industry, for example, and how there's only 2 airplane producers right now, really. And I don't know how many started. You can use the current automotive, like the ICE, you know, internal combustion engine industry, and figure out how many car makers were at the end. That's probably a better analogy. And see how many entrants there were. So let's say 1,000 entrants in the beginning, and now there's a handful, maybe like 5 big producers at maturity. So let's do the math, right? And then of course you got to worry about, okay, even if it does, how are they going to be able to be profitable? Like, what's the time frame, right? Time is money. So what is the time frame? Your money could be better spent doing something else. But just for this formula, right? Let's take the car industry, and let's just assume, I haven't done the homework, but let's just assume there are 1,000 entrants in the space in the car industry, and only like 10 of them, 10 big companies really survived, right? So we're going to divide that by 10, and the number is 100. So we're going to divide 100 divided by 100 equals 1. So I should only be investing 1% of my disposable investment capital into Fisker, if that is the case. If new industry is going to be the old industry, and it's going to grow at the same rate, the same way. So that's not a lot of money, right? Not a lot of money. If you think that the electric company field is a little more niche, okay, let's say you have like 50 total entrants and 5 boutiques make it, okay, then you got 100 divided by 5 equals 20, and then 100 divided by 20, because I need a calculator for that, right? Equals 5. So you should be using 5% of your, disposable investment capital to put into Fisker. That's not your total investment capital, just the one that you have allocated aside for venture capital or something like that. It's just a little simple equation. So that's my suggestion, really. If you're just a big fan, but if you have other reasons to buy Fisker, or if you think you have a lot of conviction based on things that you've done, for example, the owners, the auto industry well, and you see the prospect, you see their niche, like the consumer well, the business well, you can see the logistics and the distributions working out because of this and this and that. If you got some kind of information that the more than the average fan does, then fine. Like, make your bet. But currently, you see what's going on, right? Look at this. Yeah? The chart. Okay. Look at the chart. Yeah, it's bleeding because it needs to fund its operation. So they're tapping shareholder equity, right? They're selling stocks in order to fund their operation, and that's normal. And they still haven't even received any money from selling the cars. So, and they have to scale, and we have to know, okay, how good are they at scaling? All right. Maybe if you have a master scaler, like let's say an Elon or something, behind the company, then okay, maybe give him a chance. I mean, this is super subjective, and it's more about when you look at growth companies, it's more about making a bet rather than an investment. So there you go. You're making a bet on the guy, you're making a bet on the team, on the name, on whatever. You're making a bet on the industry. So you're making bets, right? Just like on a horse race. You're not going to know with a high level of certainty what's going to happen. But if you have some kind of insider information, then maybe you can make a better guess than the next guy. And that just might be good enough. All right, so that's all I got to say. The numbers, unfortunately, really don't mean anything when it comes to this company. I'm not going to be looking at like their 10Ks or 10Qs or whatever, 8Ks or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It just matters what you know about the company and what kind of judgment you can make based on your insider knowledge that all the other people don't have. And that's the bottom line. There's nothing else to be said about this company. All right, maybe Daimler next. For right now, mic drop.